sources. But first, my take today, the first part of it is dedicated to the memory of Chief Adebanjo, who passed on at 96 on Friday morning. Our condolences to his wife, children, family, associates, and everyone who is mourning his departure at this time all across this country. Pa Adebanjo was one of the last of the titans in the fight against military rule, a nationalist proper, and a consistent democratic advocate. For him, equity in the pursuit of the Nigerian experience trumps sectional interest, and that was grand. To have a notable Afenifere chief of his caliber throw his weight behind someone outside of his ethnicity, even when his own kin was in the race in the 2023 presidential polls, was an act of nobility and statesmanship. This was apparently his last gift to the idea for an equitable Nigeria where justice and fairness to all prevails. To celebrate his life, here is a clip of his comments when he was our guest here last March on Inside Sources. He was never one to hold back on strong views, and he does that with a forthrightness, the kind of which we need more of in our country today.
Why we should follow this record, Akode?
Yes, sir.
What you are hearing from you won't hear it from any other person, except they are going to falsify issue.
Yes, sir.
So, we insisted that that custom will be changed. So when we came in and we got the mandate of the people, we won all the elections in the Western region. And we told all our governors, including Bola Tinubu, and I'm going to go and check your history. Every state of our assembly at that time, the moment they were in the process, they passed a resolution for a sovereign national conference in each house of assembly.
In the Southwest?
In the Southwest, yes.
Yes, sir.
In the Lagos State of Assembly, Bola Tinubu was there. But this one, Lagos State Sovereign National Conference. We go to Ogun State, Oshoma was there, the same thing Osun, all over. Go to the record of our assembly at that time. We find all the resolution there. And when we won that, we told our governors, because when these governors talk now, they say, Baba, they were just too rigid. We told them not to go to Abuja until they change the constitution. We have found our own mandate now. But they chickened out. They are involved with the paraphernalia of office. That is one of the cause of the crisis of and half of the democracy. Those of us who are rigid on what we are doing upon, we just set off. And they carried on. That is the beginning of the trouble of Nigeria. That is the beginning of the trouble of Western region. So those of us who believe that until the truth is go back, if you listen to all my interview time, until you go back to how we started, until you go back on how we agreed upon before independence, on the condition that make us to live together in peace, we will never get peace.
May his soul rest in peace, and may his memory be blessed. May God comfort his wife and family over this loss. And one last word, titled Insult Upon Injury. It was bad enough that the Canadian embassy rejected a visitor's visa for Nigeria's highest-ranking military officer, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa. But worse is the explanation that they have given after the news broke out a couple days ago. According to the verified Canadian Embassy Nigerian handle of Twitter, now known as X, I quote, "The High Commission of Canada in Nigeria is aware of media reports related to the planned travel to Canada by some senior officials. However, the quotation continues, for privacy reasons, we are unable to provide any comment on the status of the visa applications of specific individuals, unquote. Imagine that kind of an explanation. In Yoruba language, it is called agunla, loosely interpreted meaning we don't care, we are indifferent. The Canadians are calling our bluff. By the way, General Musa is a real gentleman, an outstanding officer who has won the hearts of many Nigerians with the way he does his job and with how he engages with the people with respect and decency. It is a bad choice for the Canadians to treat this way. But like Dr. Baba Adams, a highly successful US-based Nigerian, said on a popular email list, and I quote him, if this is how the Canadians treat one of the most powerful Nigerian leaders, just imagine the plight of average Nigerians, unquote. The federal government should not accept this kind of insult from the Canadians. Not anymore. We need a full and equal reciprocity. The NSA's outburst over the matter is not the answer. And there you have it. Inside Sources. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we are opening the show with a short segment looking at the number of the foreign trips that Mr. President has undertaken since he took office last year, May 29, which is actually about 37 trips, compared to the number of the times that the Federal Executive Council has sat, which is about 23 meetings. And the implications of this and the fact that FEC no longer meets weekly. Now, there is no rule or a law that the president cannot change regarding the meeting of FEC. To join me in that discussion, I have somebody that has been reporting the State House for over 3 years and somebody that has written about this in his column. State House correspondent of The Punch, Mr. Stephen Angulu. Stephen, you're welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you so much for having me, Mr. Akonde.
All right. So, what's your first take about this idea of looking at the numbers? The president has spent more time with foreign leaders than his own ministers in cabinet.
First, I would have to say that although the Constitution doesn't necessarily talks about the frequency of the meetings of the Federal Executive Council, it does recognize the council and its functions, but it does not necessarily state how often the council should meet. The Cabinet Affairs Office released an operational manual in December of 2014 under former President Goodluck Jonathan, talking about how frequently the council should meet, and it states clearly that the council should meet weekly. And this is to allow for speedy processing of memoranda, projects, programs of the government, so you don't keep so much backlog waiting. Right. And one of the reasons behind that is for us, of course, to have an efficient government. That's number one. Right. But then, under the Buhari administration, Buhari took on that custom.
Or Jonathan?
Yes. I'm speaking for the one I covered Buhari. I didn't cover Jonathan. So we had FEC meetings on Wednesdays, 10 a.m., and that was the tradition at the time. Wednesdays, everybody was aware that 10 a.m. the villa will be full, the council chamber will be full of ministers to deliberate on issues of national concern. Right. Into the new administration, however, we saw a different pattern, right? On the 21st of August 2023, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu inaugurated 45 ministers, and that was on a Monday. Right. A week later, 28th of August 2023, we saw the inaugural meeting of the council, and from that period on, council meetings became on Mondays. And one of the things, one of the announcements, the Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, told State House correspondents at the time was that FEC meetings will be holding on Mondays.
Oh, you actually said
one.
that.
Yes,
officially.
he said that. And then, of course, he also said that we shouldn't expect the meetings to hold every week.
Okay.
The council will meet when there are memoranda to discuss.
Okay. Right.
So that was very clear from the beginning. Okay. The administration set our expectations very clear from the beginning that FEC meetings are not going to be holding weekly. Okay. So the president has been in office for 77 weeks, and we have 23 FEC meetings so far. So that's not even up to half of the weeks within which he has been president for.
77 weeks.
77 weeks already,
23
right?
meetings.
23 meetings, but 37 foreign trips.
Yeah, it's not even up to half.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not.
the 37 foreign trips.
Yes.
You know, which is my primary concern that why is the president spending more time with foreign leaders than members of his own cabinet? Now, there's a boss in this town, you know, it's just a boss, you know, I'm not confirming it, you know, we can't confirm it, but it's a boss. You know, that there are certain ministers who have not even seen the president, you know, since they took office. Again, that would be just peculiar to President Tinubu, to be fair. You know, I know that it's peculiar to, you know, previous presidents, you know. But in terms of the outlook of the work that we expect the president to do, is spending more time, to seem, with foreign leaders than with his own cabinet. Now, as somebody that covers the villa, do you see any implication for this? You know, or what's your observation?
Okay, one of the things I realized first about covering presidents is that the presidency is also a heavily ambassadorial role. That is one of the things I noticed. And that means that for a longer time, for the better part of their time, presidents would mostly be lending the weight of their office to matters of interest to the nation abroad. There are certain kinds of deals, there are certain kinds of agreements that will not go through if there is nobody at the head of state level to represent the interest of the country. Now, that aside, the usefulness of a trip is determined by two factors. Number one, the goal of that trip, and what is the follow-through of the government to ensure that they achieve the goals of the trip even after the president returns. The second one would be how efficiently is the decision-making in his absence. How efficiently is the country going? Because this is a decision, largely decision-making role, right? How effectively are matters being handled in his absence, right? So that it will not even be as though he was not even around, right? So 37 trips so far, yes, and within the first 17 months of the administration, I think the president and his deputy, Vice President Kashim Shettima, spent about 180 days.
Yeah, I think that's what you wrote in your column.
Yes, in one of our stories, yes, in October, yes. And that's about six months abroad out of 17 months. And also, so far so good. For the president alone, we have 140 days, over 140 days. That's 5 months, over 5 months, because he has been traveling way after that report came out. We're also looking at over 300 flight hours. He has, under his belt within that period. And that just shows you about the extent of what it entails. But now there's the argument that, okay, when you're moving around, local issues should not suffer. There are issues where there are times where the country is going through, a state.
Right.
Or there's a national mood the country is going through that will require that the president is around.
Yeah.
So on one or two occasions, we've had that scenario where there have been times where the president is away while things are happening back home, right?
I remember one incident
Yes.
when I don't remember which country it was, and then there was this flood in
Maiduguri.
In Maiduguri.
Yes, yes.
But he did a good thing.
Yes.
He came.
Back.
He flew, from the foreign trip. I think it was Paris also. I'm not sure.
Yes, I think
he
it
went
was
straight
Paris.
to Maiduguri.
Yes.
Well, that leads to my next question. If you look, you cover the villa, and you've been doing it for 3 years now. If you look at the number of foreign trips and local trips outside of Abuja, how does that balance out?
Well, the local trips, of course, foreign trips are more in number, right? We have about 18 countries now. Some are recurrent, some are unique. Yes, Tanzania was the first time, but right about now, as we're talking, the president is in Ethiopia, which is, I think, his second or third appearance in that country.
But before he got to Ethiopia, he spent about a week in Paris.
In Paris, yes. So I would say that the local trips are mostly on a high needs basis.
And thank you so much, Stevie, for the insight. The reason why I raised that question is that actually my guest last week, who is a member of the party, did say that, look, the president has not been to a place like Kano, it's going to be 2 years. But he's been to Enugu, he's been to
Maiduguri, yes.
Of course, he goes to Lagos very often. I'm trying to remember where else. Now, so the final question is that the president's predilection or propensity to travel abroad,
yes.
I don't know whether it compares with others. I've not done the mathematics. It probably does, although this seems to be quite another level. Obasanjo traveled a whole lot abroad, and I know that President Buhari also did quite a bit. In fact, he took a vacation twice when he was not feeling very good. So we're not saying that the president is doing what others have not done. But two issues. He is distracted from local attending local issues, so there's a drain of his time on local issues. And then I wanted to ask you that, what about the drain on the resources? Does this constitute a significant drain on the resources, and does it constitute a significant drain on his ability to focus on local issues?
Now, I would say that, first off, like you rightly said, presidential trips or presidential movements generally are quite resource intensive. We have to state that fact. For instance, the US president, we know how much, we can estimate how much goes into movements for the US president just within the country and even outside. Right. That is a given. Now, when the president moves, it's like a whole village moving. There's a whole lot of architecture around him, the security, the media, and intelligence and all that, right? So, and that doesn't come cheap. For instance, let me look at the numbers for the 2020, the 2024 budget allocates about I think the 2024 budget allocates around 8 billion for the trips, the foreign trips of the president. Foreign and local, let me put it that way. Foreign and local trips for the president. The vice president has 1.8 billion naira allocated to his office, meaning he'll be traveling way less than the president. For 2025, that number dropped a bit. The State House allocated 7 billion naira to the office of the president, and for the office of the vice president, that figure dropped to about 1.7 billion billion naira.
That's looking good.
But then that's not all of it. You see, that's not all of it, because then sometimes, like I think we did a report in January of 2024 where about 3.5 billion naira had been spent already by the administration 6 months in. Right, and this is way above the budget, because it was an inherited budget in 2023. So this was way above the budget even allocated for the whole year.
We already spent it in 6 months.
Yes, and in 6 months it had already been overshot. But again, like I said, within the first few months of a president, it is typical to see a hard push to, go out there and, portray the image of the country on the global stage.
Right.
And I think that is what happened. Yes.
Interesting. Thank you so much, for coming to Inside Sources. The whole point is to call the attention of the president and his handlers that, look, this is how it's looking. You're spending more time, with foreign leaders than you are spending at home. And like we've discussed, there are, good reasons for both. But it's important for us to have a clear understanding of what it is that is happening. Ultimately, we need the president more at home than abroad, And, good thing we can talk about this. This is a democracy.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for
Thank
coming
you
to
very
Inside
much
Sources.
for having me, Mr. Akonde.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Our main conversation today regarding the future of the country is the question of Sharia panels or Sharia courts in the southern part of the country, especially in the southwest. Now, recently, this has become a controversial issue, and we consider that it is quite sensitive. But it's important to discuss it. And so to join me in that conversation today, I have to my far right, I have Barrister Adam Oloriaje. Barrister Adam Oloriaje was the former Secretary General of the Muslim Lawyers Association and also former chairman of the chapter in Abuja. Barrister, you are welcome to us. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Also joining us here in the studio, we have Dr. David Okoro, who is a security and governance strategist and expert. Dr. Okoro, welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
All right, good. And joining us virtually, we have Dr. Fela Ojo, who is a newspaper columnist. Dr. Fela Ojo, welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, good. So let's start with Barrister.
Yes.
Make the case for us, why it is important to have Sharia courts or Sharia panels in the southwest. Many people assume that Sharia is for the north, and we have seen a bit of tension since the idea came up. Can you just, make a case so that we can understand exactly what the point is?
Thank you, my brother. The case is this: Sharia. When you hear Sharia, is not for the north.
Okay.
Sharia is for Muslims.
Yeah.
It's to guide our lifestyle. It is the purpose of our existence. A Muslim cannot probably exist fully without compliance with the tenets, injunction, and commands of his religion. That is it. The issue at stake now is not about even having Sharia court in the southwest. It's about the idea of bringing up what we call Sharia arbitration panel in the southwest, which has been in existence. You see, people are just making us about it now. Sharia arbitration panel has been in existence in Lagos State, practicing in Lagos State in the last 22 years. We started practicing Sharia arbitration panel in Lagos. In fact, as I'm talking to you, weekends Sharia arbitration panel sits in Lagos to resolve issues, disputes that has to do with personal status, anything that has to do with personal law. You see, that is what we take care in the Sharia arbitration panel. It is not something that is that you are compelled to submit to. You have autonomy, you have consent. That is what we call tahkim under Sharia arbitration. You are not compelled to submit to arbitration.
Even when you are a Muslim.
When you are a Muslim,
you are not compelled.
You are not compelled. It's like the same thing that happens when you are entering into an agreement and you have what we call arbitration clause. That is what we practice there, and it has been very, very productive. In fact, the last 22 years in Lagos, they have resolved issues that have not been resolved for over 30 years. I've been resolving the arbitration panel. During the arbitration panel in Lagos. You see, Muslims, the major problems we have on this noise cacophony about Sharia arbitration panel is either out of stark ignorance. I'm sorry to use the word. People don't even know what the concept is all about.
Yeah, you know, even where in the perception
or out of intolerance. Out of intolerance. Because some people, immediately hear anything Sharia, what comes to their brain is you want to compare people, you want to convert people to another religion, you want to cause chaos. No.
So it's not jihad.
He's not. He's not. You see, maybe the name or the word Sharia in front of arbitration panel. There are other practices of Islamic concepts that we are going into these days because they are not called Islamic.
People can accept it.
People can accept it and access it. You can see what is happening in commercial banks now. You can see people are now gradually leaving conventional banks to non-interest banking practices. You'll be surprised to know that we have over 40% customers in Jais, Taj Bank, who are Christians. In fact, the first depositor into Jais, I was told, when Jais started, was a Catholic.
Interesting.
And he was not a Catholic.
Well, because it's interest-free.
Because it's interest-free.
It's common sense.
Because they are not calling it Islamic, people take it easily.
Embrace it.
Okay. And people are embracing it.
All right. I mean, good for our opening.
And the other part of it, is which I will call diversionary.
Right.
Because most of our governors in the Southwest, some of them are not doing what is expected of them. There is maybe that will be an argument for another time.
But make the point how.
The leadership, the practice, even the giving people dividend of democracy, they find it difficult to do. Some of them. But they look at this style as a way to divert people's attention from what is expected of them as government.
No, so I wanted you to connect that to the issue on ground, the issue of Sharia. What did you say?
Thank you. There is this policy you witness when people are interested in taking the attention away from the material thing expected of government in governance. And going to frivolities that does not, I call it frivolities because it does not concern anybody. It is constitutional.
I see your point.
It is legal. So we are saying that permissible.
The fact that we are debating it now is out of an attempt to cause.
Out of an attempt to just to call
Before we go to Dr. Okoro,
yes, sir.
I wanted to ask you. So you said that this has been taking place, has been going on for about 22 years in Lagos.
Yes,
since
2002 in Lagos.
It's new to me, yes. And that's quite interesting. Now, the Muslims in the other parts of Southwest, how have they been managing, in sorting out, what the arbitration panel ought to be sorting if it happens? What options have you guys been?
That is the problem we're having. I will give you an instance. A marriage conducted under Islamic law in the mosque by Muslims. If that marriage has issue,
right,
we have Islam has provided every regulation for our lifestyle. From the way we eat, what we eat, the marriage, even the way you sleep, the way you transact businesses. That's why what you see under some of these our non-interest banking commercial practices now,
right,
that you do. Islam has given regulation to everything as Muslims. Now, take the marriage, for example. You marry under Islamic law.
Right.
Your marriage has issue. There is no Islamic structure or panel to regulate crisis in your marriage. So you submit to customary court. Customary court, which may even be headed by a non-Muslim, which may even be headed by somebody who does not even have any religion.
Okay.
We will now sit down there and say, carry the children, give that woman the children. Whereas Islam has what we call adana, guardianship, maintenance of children, maintenance of marriage, everything is regulated under Islam. Okay. But when you have small issue like this, it is somebody who does not even know anything about Islam that will not be resolving it.
Okay.
Those are part of the issues we are considering under Sharia arbitration panel. If the problem is the Sharia, I will call you. Maybe you can explain it also that they allow us to beat.
Oh, thank you so much for those opening comments, and I think you already set the stage. I'm going to bring it now to Dr. David Okoro. How do you respond to this issue? You are a security and governance, strategist. What's your take? Especially with the explanation that Barrister Oluwade has given.
Well, again, thank you for having me. You asked the right question. We know that the Yoruba nation has a long history.
Yeah.
And over this long period of time, Muslims and Christians and other religions have lived together in states other than Lagos.
Yeah.
How did they cope? how were they able to manage marriage issues, inheritance issues, land issues? And so if they have handled this well, why suddenly this talk about this Sultan speaks, this one speaks, and now we are saying we must have the Sharia, whether courts, whether committees, whether councils in the Southwest. And I think that for me, there is no firm legal grounds. There are arguments as to whether these councils have been set up and all that, whether they are legal or they are not legal. Nobody have been able to come up with a policy, for instance, from the Supreme Court saying that we should practice this. This should be the line to follow. And by the way, when you talk about the customary system is an aggregation of various beliefs. Is the custom of the people. The court we are talking about, right. It reflects the custom of the people, the way of life of the people. It reflects the lifestyle of the people. That is the system that has been practiced over time. And if it has not worked, why have we had so much peace in Southwest? I mean, if you look at Southwest, it's one of the fairly stable part of Nigeria. It's progressive because of the stability. There is unity because what this whole talk is going to do in the Southwest, it's going to bring division, it's going to bring suspicion, it's going to be fear. Now I grew up in Ibadan. By the way, I went to secondary school and university in Southwest, so I know the system. So it's having a family, you have a pastor, you have an imam, you have an alpha.
Yeah, in the same family.
In the same family.
Okay.
When you introduce Sharia in the northern, by the way, it's not factually right to say the whole northern region is under Sharia.
No, just 12 states.
So we must understand that Christians have bear the burden of the implementation of Sharia
in those 12 states.
Because when it was being implemented in those states, Christians accepted it, right?
Okay.
When in Kaduna State, the former governor decided that he will have a Muslim ticket, Christians bore it. They accepted it as a sacrifice. When the president, this current government, decided they were going to do a Muslim ticket, Christians bore the burden. They accepted it. When they passed under Sanusi, Nigeria decided to implement the financial services system. That's a former central bank government. Yeah, that brought in the Sharia banking. Right. There was all substitution, but Christians again sacrificed and accepted it. Okay. In our interaction, in our diplomacy, we have it's a large chunk of our diplomacy is Islamic. You have the D8, Development Aid. Many people don't know. It's an association that is only Islamic.
Those who happen to be in D8 are
Muslim, Iraq.
But I don't think it is intended to be an Islamic organization. But I see your point. And the members are.
So I'm not talking about the fact that the Christians have sacrificed. Awesome. But the question now is, why are we saying now that we want to upturn a system that have worked well? Because if it's not broken,
why do you fix it? All right, very good. Barrister, I'm coming back to you, because let's take it to. Okay, let's take it to Dr. Folaide, a newspaper columnist who is joining us virtually from the US. Dr. Ojo, what's your take? You're following us. What's your take?
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. I'm really surprised that in 2025, when nations around the world are growing, when they are empowering their people, when education has been made available, healthcare has been made available, and all this, we are still talking about religion in Nigeria 2025. Now, if you want to look at the origin of this stuff, there's a Supreme Sharia Council, Sharia Council in Nigeria that actually started this. Yeah. So, and now this mother group was incorporated in just 2005, thereabout. And it's just a group of like minds, people who believe, who serve the same God, who believe, have the same belief and all of that. And they came together. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, the chapter in Oyo State flagged off this problem and simple communication. All right, just like one of my brothers said, that there's a Sharia panel in Lagos State, and it's been in existence since 2002. Understandable. But what I'm saying is, when these people in Oyo State started this stuff, they miscommunicated. They call it independent Sharia court. Independence Sharia court. I was in Nigeria in December. And when I heard that thing, the first thing that I did was just to investigate who established this Sharia court in the Southwest. Because by law, if you look at section 275 to 279 of the Constitution of Nigeria, you'll see that only state assemblies and a National Assembly can establish courts. So when we heard court, it was a red flag of resistance and pushback right away. It's not that we're ignorant. We're not ignorant. We're just concerned. Because just like one of my brothers said, the Southwest has been in peaceful coexistence for years. We have Muslims in our families. My uncle is a Muslim. I married a Muslim woman who converted on her own. I have Muslim in-laws who are very, very close to me. So it's just trying to disrupt the status quo of tranquility that the Southwest has always had. So we understand all of this. So that really brought a red flag that no, we're not going to allow this, because I am very, very sure there are some people who we don't know. They are faceless. They probably have some political or religious, undertone behind all of this. So I think the word court raised the red flag. And that's why we're talking about this today.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your opening comments. I have to take it back to Barrister Oloriaje, who is also incidentally a lawyer. And, Bess, I want to give you ample time, to respond, and, just to what you've heard, both from Dr. Okoro and Dr. Ojo.
There is no status quo concerning the issue of arbitration. The status quo we have been experiencing, as I've said earlier, is what is the tolerance of the Muslim community not to have been allowed to practice their religion. I will go back to my brother Okoro, Dr. Okoro. When it comes to issue of who has been bearing the brunt or whatever, that may not be the purpose of this sitting, because it will take us away actually from the information we want to pass across here.
Okay.
Mr. Akade can invite us another time for that. I will tell you that it is what you know that you are talking about. If it is Southwest, are you getting me? If it's Southwest, it has been Muslims. That is by the way. And there is nothing new in this idea. The way it is presented may not be the proper place, because I've never had the opportunity of joining them in or watching that particular presentation.
Okay.
But what I know, as far as Sharia arbitration panel is concerned, sir,
right,
it is not changing any status quo. It does not affect anybody. It does not affect any Muslims who is not submitting to it. It does not even affect what is not affecting a Muslim that is not submitting to it. How will it affect a Christian? It's not changing anything. Rather, it's giving us structure. For example, as Muslims, if you are applying to any embassy in Nigeria today,
okay,
as a Muslim,
to
get it for a visa, you cannot, they will not accept this our normal mosque certificate we present.
That to determine that you are
married, that we're married as Muslims.
Oh, okay.
They won't accept it.
Why?
They won't accept it. They say they don't recognize it. That is not married under the act.
or the Islamic act.
Yes, it's not married under the act, under Marriage Act.
Oh, okay.
Are you getting? Okay, so are you saying, sorry,
Now, please hold your thought.
Yes, sir.
Is it that Muslims can't currently marry under the act now? Is it, or
They can, if you marry under Nigerian Act, Marriage Act in Nigeria,
yes,
you have subscribed to an idea of one man, one wife.
okay, oh yeah.
The marriage that the act says, which is what the act says. As Muslims now, you cannot present, for example, this normal certificate they give in the mosque just to recognize that you people are married. But with the advent of Sharia arbitration panel in Lagos, they are now developing something that looks like a certificate signed, present to embassies. Embassies are now recognizing us. They are now saying, okay, you people are married. Okay, we recognize it. So now if you want to take maybe 2 or 3 of your wives abroad, you recognize that. They recognize how you married to them. To tell you, it's as if those are the little benefits we get from it. I know of a family that has been in dispute on the inheritance of their father for the last almost 25, 27 years.
And the reason why it's still a dispute is because
they are Muslims and they want the provision of Islam to govern their inheritance.
interesting.
You get it? You can't go to customary court. You can't go and meet somebody who is not even a Christian, who is a traditionalist, to be dividing your distance and say, another Igigi. Until we appreciate the fact that even if it is 30th century, not even 20th century, let it be another millennium. As long as we are Muslims, we are governed by the law of our faith, which is constitutionally guaranteed. By the Nigerian Constitution, Section 38 said it. He said you can manifest your religion, you can show your religion, you can practice your religion. Funny enough, Governor Adebanjo is also fighting that Sharia arbitration panel should not be allowed in the state. When Owu people inaugurated arbitration panel in January 2024 to govern civil relationship between Owu indigenes and their neighbors, inaugurated. It has a framework. It's working. You see?
Okay.
We have other faith-based arbitration panels in Nigeria. Catholics, they have faith-based arbitration panels.
Okay.
Structured
That is just on their whole
on the Catholic religion
and
to settle disputes, civil disputes among themselves. In fact, they give recommendation. They will submit their recommendation to the bishop to take care of, these things are in Nigeria,
and they are empowered to implement it.
They are empowered to implement it
Under the law.
Under the law, they implement. Civil matters, even commercial matters. Between them, they do it.
Okay.
They do it. It's like that. Maybe the problem there is maybe out of ignorance also for those people who announced it. They raise it as a court. It doesn't take the power of court
to do that.
It doesn't have the effect of the court in the understanding of court in Nigeria. No.
Okay. Well, there's something I want you to address, Barrister, and then we come to Doctor.
Yes, sir.
So both Dr. Okoro and Dr. Ojo, they've raised an important point that I want you to address.
Yes, sir.
They said there will be suspicion. That will create fear.
There is no fear.
Please address that.
There is no fear.
And suspicion.
There is no suspicion. Except if we generate that suspicion on our own. I've given you an instance now. Sharia arbitration panel in Lagos has been in existence since 2002. Has it generated any suspicion? As I'm talking now, I can put a call across to member of the panel in Lagos. They are sitting as I'm talking in Lagos.
Because they sit at weekends.
They sit on weekends. Sometimes they sit during the week, towards evening on Wednesdays.
Okay.
They are settling matters, disputes. In fact, they are executing some of their disputes. Except for some AD party that will say, no, I will not allow that. I will not agree. Within Muslims.
Yeah, exactly.
Within Muslims, the autonomy is there and the consent is there. Even as a Muslim, if you say you are not submitting to it, nobody can take you there. The issue of suspicion is not even there at all.
Yeah.
It's not. There is nothing like suspicion or they will now create problem, they will be killing people. No.
Okay, so before
it is just for commercial practices and of personal laws
that people are agreed.
Now, but submit to.
Before we come to Dr. David, people see Lagos as basically a mini Nigeria.
Cosmopolitan.
When you go further north to Oyo and Osho, it becomes more and more traditional. People are not as cosmopolitan. Even in Ibadan, it's a little bit more. But when you go to Ibadan, you go to Ekiti, you go to Ondo, you go to Akure. Do you think that the people in those states, in fact, I'm not doing that, they call them Awara, they are much less cosmopolitan. Don't you think that might accentuate and that might be another factor to raise the fear and the suspicion?
There is no fear. It cannot raise any fear. I will give you an instance. There is a center they call the Justice Development and Peace Movement of Catholic Diocese of Oyo State.
Okay.
They are offering structured arbitration, the way the Sharia panel in Lagos are doing it.
Okay.
The Catholics.
Okay.
In Oyo State. And it does not concern anybody except you submit to it. But mind you, one of the key features of arbitration,
right,
is what? Is this autonomy and consent. Autonomy of the parties.
Of the parties.
Who are submitting to it.
That the parties, they submit freely.
They don't want to. They don't want to. You cannot compel them. You cannot compel them.
Okay.
You see? I'll give you an instance. See, part of the reasons why it will not bring any issue, why it is long overdue. Even Christians are now submitting to non-interest banking practices.
Like in jazz and...
Like all these other Mudaraba, all these concepts under Islamic banking. They submit to it. And part of the contract is there is a clause for arbitration in case there is any issue. That kind of arbitration, will you take it to customary court? Customary arbitrator. Will you take it to what do you call it? To all these conventional arbitrators? No, you take it to arbitrators who are knowledgeable in the field.
Right.
Who are knowledgeable in the field. It is for everybody, because if they are practicing non-interest banking system, that you will need everything that has to do with that concept to protect yourself.
Right.
You submit to this kind of arbitration now. Okay. Is that bringing? It's not bringing any noise. I will tell you, so many non-Muslims have signed agreements with non-interest banking banks in Nigeria that has this concept of Sharia arbitration panel. Okay. We have Sharia council. Okay. Banking council, and they are doing well. Have you heard of any noise? Have you heard of any crisis there? Have you heard of any war? Yeah. There won't be.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Let's take it to Dr. David Okoro. Now, so Mr. Barrister Oluwaji says that there's no basis for suspicion, there's no basis for fear, because these things have been happening in Lagos, in the banking sector, where people who are not even Muslims have subscribed to the idea of non-interest banking. And to the extent that it has happened in Lagos for such a long time, how do you respond to that? Because you raised the issue of suspicion, and now he has responded.
Yeah, but I just thought that before we started, you are pushing timing.
Yeah, no, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
It's important that
everybody
is given adequate time. Because you don't have all the time in the world.
Just go ahead. No, don't worry.
Don't actually have all the time to speak. It tends to distort.
No, we have all the time. Doctor, it's totally all the time. No, you get more time.
You see, there are ambivalent description of this. You've spoken about arbitration. Nobody has any issue with arbitration. There are all sorts of arbitration. What is being done in the Southwest? Is it a regular arbitration, like I will have in a business? Of course, every business transaction in Nigeria will put there that if there are differences in this matter, there will be an arbitration. Is that what you're asking for? Is it arbitration for marriage? Is it arbitration for property sharing, inheritance sharing? Is that what?
That's Islamic personal law.
Is that no? I'm coming.
That is what you are taking. That's is what they are talking about. Islamic personal law.
Is it arbitration? Is it the regular arbitration? You are talking about the law now. Because what people are worried about, and you're saying that there is no need to fear. And I told you, I lived in Kaduna. The same narrative we are seeing today is what happened there. Before when it comes to implementation and all that, we are seeing a different ballgame. So what you are seeing here, that nobody is afraid, nobody is complaining. But just before I came here, I was reading newspaper today. The Catholic Bishop Association in the Southwest are afraid. They are talking about tension. They are talking about fear. They are talking about disruption. No, you think this is what you see. But the people who this will come back to have a reaction.
It's not coming back to anybody.
No, I'm coming, sir. We are saying that we had a status quo, we had a society that was running well, and suddenly there is an attempt to introduce law that not even you have been able to explain well what it's all about. And that is being shoved down people's throat to say, oh, in Lagos it's operating. We need to know what exactly is happening in Lagos. Because this is the first time somebody is coming out to say, oh, we have it in Lagos. What is being implemented in Lagos vis-a-vis what Oluyede said, vis-a-vis what you are saying now, and what people are seeing. So people have a right to be afraid because this is more or less like what we call the Trojan horse. What you are told is coming is not what you will get at the end of the day. The Trojan horse comes in, it comes in with something else. But before you know it, the Trojan horse is in. So now, like he said, this is my belief. I am a pragmatic strategist. I look at issues and I try to analyze and predict what people believe. The Christians believe this, that this is an agenda that is being pushed. And so these courts or these councils, it's like the Trojan horse that will bring in the ultimate purpose of what people want to do. And the ultimate purpose is to introduce Sharia as a full legal system in the Southwest. And that is where we are going. You can mark it. You can mark it. I might be alive, you might be alive, but ultimately, these are the very early signs that are indicative of what is intended to happen. This is permitted, tomorrow is permitted, and we still have the argument. It's my religion. I should be allowed to practice my religion. This is what the law of my religion says. Nobody can stop me. And then you have a situation where my fear is this. I don't have any problem with any legal system being implemented, but I asked the question before. When you talk about legalese, the next thing you want to ask yourself is it expedient? Will it help us? Because again, if I take what has happened in a state like Kaduna, today, Kaduna is effectively partitioned. It's Christian and Muslim. There are areas that are Christian zones, there are areas that are Muslim zones. I lived in Kaduna for a long time, where I had my offices, where I lived there, but I can't live there anymore. I can't even go there anymore because those are classified as Muslim zone, these are classified as Christian zone.
Which was not existed before.
It existed for a wonderful city that we love. But when the Sharia thing was dropped on the table, we were told all the good things. But when the implementation started and there were crises, today the economy, I was surprised when I looked at Kaduna Internal Revenue, one of the lowest. The reason is because of that crisis. People have lost confidence in the system, people have left the city, and all sorts have happened. And like I said, people do not trust each other. You look at the man, is he a Christian or a Muslim? You're dealing with him, the first thing you want to look at is his religion. If you cannot afford, that has happened in the north. Can we afford to replicate that in the Southwest? The greatest problem facing the Southwest right now is the attempt of ISWAP, and it's real. The attempt of ISWAP to strike and create confusion there. Chasing rats and cockroach when the big elephant in the room is staring all of us at the face. This is diversionary. And I think that we should, if you really say that this ordinary arbitration panel, not a court, then no problem. Anybody can do arbitration, like you said, the Catholic does. Catholic arbitration is not a court system. It's, if there are issues among each other, it is resolved under the arbitration, but it does not have the power of the law, like the judiciary, like it's being asked. When you do start by having a legal system, it leads to other things. It becomes a way you go. So this is what I'm saying. I don't have a lot of Muslim friends, but the outcome of this particular law or this particular push would be something that everybody will need to regret.
Nobody will regret anything.
Okay, all right. I mean, and I wanted Dr. Okoro to be persuaded that, of course, you get the time to say everything that you need to say.
It's important.
Yeah, and the reason is because the reason why we have to listen to Mr. Oloriaje is that, so it turns out that we have 3 people, and from the introduction, it was clear that it was 2 against 1. So it's important for me to let him, because if you look at the balance of time, if I'm not careful, it will be read against him.
And I'm better informed about what is happening than you.
So I need to explain. So that is why I am talking about
Perspective.
I'm better informed.
And if you ask me,
I say something, sir?
I'm as more confused than.
We cannot. Anyway, let's have a last word, Mr. Ojo, because of our time. Yeah. Dr. Joe, any last word just in 1 minute?
You see, my concern now is that my brother was talking about the functionality of arbitration, Sharia, and how they amend them faces in marriages and all disputes and all, and that's lofty. But my brother cannot say that there's no mistrust. There is mistrust. People remember stuff. I had a stint in Zaria. My older brothers lived in the north. We heard stories. We heard stories of pogrom because of the issue of religion. Nigeria joined OIC behind closed doors. We remember all of those things. We remember the confusion that religion and all the stuff has caused in Nigeria. So there is the issue of trust. Just like I said earlier, the charter of the Supreme Sharia Council in Nigeria, or in Oyo State, called it an independent Sharia court. They know what they were talking about. So when you float that idea court, it's a red flag. But what I want us to just be very, very mindful, because we are all Nigerians and we want peace. We want peaceful coexistence among our people. But I just want us to be very, very careful. We must be very careful about the volatility that the issue of religion is capable of causing among us. We must be mindful. We must be mindful not just about what we push, but how we push all our religious demands. We must be very sensitive to how other Nigerians feel about stuff. We can say, oh, there's no mistrust. There is mistrust. There is no trust at all. Then we must be watchful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joe. Our time is already fast spent. Thank you so much for the contribution. We have to continue another day. Yes. I think, in my view, we just need to talk more about this. There has to be much more communication about it so that we can understand each other better. Thank you so much, Mr. Adam Oloriaje.
Yes, sir.
For coming.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. David Okoro.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for your views, both of you. And thank you, Dr. Folaujo, all the way from US.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like when we say Nigeria will prevail, it means that Nigeria will win because we will not relent, we won't give up. And, more communication on these kind of issues can certainly help us to sort out whatever differences exist. Thank you for watching. My name is Laolu Akonde. By the grace of God, I'll see you at the next edition.